The scream of tearing metal was still echoing in her ears when Emily Carter dropped to her knees on the shoulder of the highway, the hem of her white wedding dress already smeared with oil and blood. Cars rushed past, horns blaring, but all she could see was the man trapped inside the crushed sedan, his chest barely moving, his eyes fluttering as if deciding whether to stay or go. Her hands were shaking as she pressed them against his wound, her veil tangled in the broken glass. Somewhere behind her, someone shouted that an ambulance was on the way, but the man's lips moved, and she leaned closer, afraid she was already too late. "Stay with me," Emily whispered, her voice cracking. "Please, just stay." Minutes earlier, she had been laughing in the passenger seat of her bridal car, nerves buzzing, heart light, watching the late summer sun flicker through the trees along the interstate. Her phone had been buzzing with messages from bridesmaids asking where she was, reminding her that the ceremony was set to start in 40 minutes. She remembered glancing at the clock and thinking they were cutting it close, teasing her driver to step on the gas. Then she saw the smoke ahead, thick and dark, rising like a warning flare against the blue sky. "Pull over," she had said without thinking. The driver hesitated. "Emily, we're already late." "I don't care," she snapped, already unbuckling her seatbelt. "Someone needs help." She didn't remember opening the door or stepping onto the asphalt, only the shock of heat from the twisted metal and the smell of gasoline that made her throat burn. The car had flipped, crushed against the guardrail, the front end unrecognizable. A man inside was unconscious, his head slumped forward, blood running down his temple. Other drivers stood at a distance, phones raised, frozen by the fear of doing the wrong thing. Emily didn't freeze. She hiked up her dress, ignoring the honk of passing cars and the gravel cutting into her shoes, and ran straight to him. Now, kneeling beside him, she felt time stretch and warp. Her hands remembered what to do from years ago, from before she became a wedding planner and before life settled into neat, predictable lines. She'd been a volunteer EMT in college, the training buried but not gone. She checked his breathing, spoke his name when she found his wallet, told him hers as if it mattered. "I'm Emily. I'm getting married today, so you don't get to steal my thunder by dying, okay?" The man groaned faintly, and relief hit her so hard she almost laughed. She kept talking about the ridiculous shoes she was wearing, about how she was supposed to be walking down an aisle instead of kneeling on a highway, about how he was going to tell this story someday and no one would believe him. Blood soaked deeper into the fabric of her dress, turning white into something darker, heavier. Sirens finally cut through the chaos. Paramedics rushed in, taking over, their movements fast and sure. One of them looked at Emily, then at her dress, eyes widening. "Ma'am, are you okay?" She nodded, stepping back only when they told her to. Her hands were red, her heart pounding so hard it hurt. She watched as they loaded the man into the ambulance, watched the doors slam shut, watched the flashing lights disappear down the road. Only then did she realize she was shaking from head to toe. Her phone rang. She didn't need to look to know who it was. "Emily," her fiancé's voice came through, tight with worry. "Where are you? Everyone's here." "I'm sorry," she said, swallowing hard. "I stopped. There was an accident." There was a pause, just long enough for her to brace herself for anger, disappointment, something sharp and justified. Instead, he exhaled slowly. "Are you safe?" "Yes." "Then take a breath," he said gently. "We'll wait." She laughed then, a wet, broken sound, and sank onto the guardrail, staring at her ruined dress. "I'm covered in blood." "I don't care," he said gently. "I married you for who you are, remember?" By the time she arrived at the venue, hair hastily fixed, dress stained beyond saving, the guests had been murmuring for nearly an hour. The music stopped when she walked in, and a hush fell over the room. She saw the looks, confusion, shock, whispers spreading like ripples. She met her fiancé's eyes at the altar, saw the worry fade into something deeper, something proud. She told them the truth before the ceremony began. She told them why she was late, why her dress looked the way it did. No one complained. Some people cried. The officiant waited until she nodded that she was ready. They were halfway through their vows when the back doors opened quietly. A man stood there, pale and unsteady, supported by a nurse. Emily's breath caught when she recognized him. He met her eyes, lifted a hand, and mouthed two words she would never forget. "Thank you." Later, long after the music and the dancing and the photographs, Emily would think about how close she had come to choosing differently. How easy it would have been to stay in the car, to tell herself someone else would help. Instead, she learned something she would carry for the rest of her life. That love isn't only promised in front of an altar. Sometimes it's proven on the side of the road, in a wedding dress, when no one is watching and everything is at stake.